Matt, what's tougher, doing the movie or promoting the movie?
Definitely promoting the movie. Because it's work. I mean, you're actually, I'm not doing what I love to do, which is making the movie. So when I'm doing my day job, I actually don't feel like I'm working at all.
How tough is it to shoot a movie, then you go on to something else, and then you then come back to promote the movie maybe a year later after you shot it?
Well, it depends. I mean, something like this, we turned around really quickly. We started shooting in September and finished in March, so it's still very much kind of fresh for me. But, there are other movies, like there's a movie I shot before Jason Bourne that's still not going to come out for another 6 or 8 months. And, then you got to kind of, try to think back at, and remember kind of what happened.
We were also wondering what sports you played in high school. Now, we're taking bets. I can tell you what the prevailing thought was of the sport that you played, and it was wrestling. We also threw in baseball. I thought hockey might be an outside possibility. So, anybody correct?
I am in the first class to letter. I got a varsity letter in theater. That's true. That's literally true. But the big sport that we played growing up was basketball because I went to Cambridge Ridge and Latin. So I grew up on Pat Ewing Street. I used to see Pat all the time when I was a little kid. And when I was in high school, Ramil Robinson was playing for us. So we had a really great, we won the state title probably, between the times my brother was there and I was there, probably half the time we were in the championship game and usually won it. So So needless to say that, my 5'10" ass wasn't making that team.
So Celtics, obviously, growing up. Did you go to the games?
Yeah, when we could. My dad would get tickets to one game a year, and obviously not a Lakers game. We couldn't go to those games. Nobody could get tickets for those. But so we used to go see Jordan a lot. That was our, before he really became Air Jordan, like when it was Mike and the four other guys from Chicago showing up to play, and the Celtics would win pretty handily, but Jordan would score, 40, 50 points, and so those were the games we would go.
Now, I know that they made up sort of a background story for Jason Bourne of even when you're born, it was an address in New York City. But can you enhance your resume as Jason Bourne, and maybe if they actually showed it again or you did another movie and it had athletic achievements on there, if that were the case, what would Jason Bourne have on his resume? Not a varsity jacket in theater.
Basketball town. Yeah, I would say, varsity basketball player. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think it's more likely that he's got MMA on his resume, something like that.
I have a Boston sports question for you. It's our poll question today. McLovin, would you give Matt the poll question?
Who would you put in the Hall of Fame first, Bill Belichick or Roger Clemens?
Belichick.
Why is Roger Clemens not in the Hall of Fame?
Well, before he started taking steroids, he did have 2 Cy Youngs, and so I don't know is the answer. I mean, I think he was, look, I grew up watching him, and he was so unbelievably dominant when he played for the Red Sox. But, I mean, I think I always assumed that getting traded, that Dan Duquette getting rid of him, and, when he went to Toronto, that seemed like, obviously, he had this incredible uptick in his performance, and so it always struck me as that was probably the moment when he started misbehaving, and it was out of that professional pride of I'm still great. I always wonder about professional athletes. It's got to be so frustrating because I look at my own life and I have this thing that I love to do, and I only get better at it. And I talked to some major leaguers who were out of the league who said the most frustrating aspect was as they got older, they knew so much more about hitting, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Mike Lansing telling me this. He was like a utility guy for the Red Sox, and he had just retired. And he said, if you put my brain in my 21-year-old body, I wouldn't be a utility guy. I'd be a Hall of Famer. So I think that's got to be an unbelievably frustrating thing to have happen as your physical skills start to deteriorate your knowledge and wisdom of the game has only increased, and that's got to be brutal. And if there were some performance enhancing thing that we could take for acting, believe me, everybody would be doing it. It's you're always looking for that edge if you're in a highly competitive industry. But
you're okay in the new movie Jason Bourne that comes out on Friday. I mean, you're jacked. If you needed to be more jacked, and they said, "Hey, do you want to take HGH or PED? Something legally under doctor's supervision." Would you do that for the role?
I just don't think that there's enough known about it. I mean, I would if you could guarantee that it was totally safe and it was just something that you weren't supposed to do if you were a professional athlete. I would certainly consider doing it if it was safe. I mean, I know a lot of guys in the special forces. Like, if your life depended on it, like, you absolutely would be doing that. If there was something that could make you stronger and more powerful in the short term, that could be the difference between living and dying. I don't see how you would not do that. But for the purposes of a movie, look, I just have to look a certain way. It's not actual performance that I'm trying to augment. It's like, it's all make believe. So I don't have to answer that kind of real question.
I think Ben Affleck may have had roid rage when he was being interviewed by Bill Simmons, though, on Tom Brady. There was something going on there, man.
When any of us get on the subject of, this Deflategate thing it's so frustrating. I saw the headline the other day when they said, NFL finds no evidence of Peyton Manning using HGH, and which made everybody happy. Nobody wants to hear that story, but I thought to myself, yeah, they also found no evidence of Tom deflating footballs. They're still making him sit out 4 games. So I don't know. I mean, it's infuriating to us, and we do feel like the Patriots have a target on them. But look, Tommy coming back October 9th and having a chip on his shoulder augurs pretty well for the New England Patriots.
Last time a Boston sports team made you cry?
The last time I cried was I remember what was in 2004 when we won the World Series. I went back to Boston to the parade, and I was just standing on the street, and I just tears started just rolling down my face, and I think it happened for everyone. I mean, there was I can't explain the deep kind of. I think people in Cleveland right now just went through it. And, I read so much about it because I remembered how it felt 12 years ago for all of us in Boston. And I was reading these interviews where these people you're bursting into tears. And I mean, it's just it's like this load gets lifted. Like, the whole character of our city changed when the Red Sox won the World Series. It was crazy.
I noticed in the trailer, you look a little weathered. And I don't know if that's by design or not. And I don't mean this as an insult, but I hope you take it as a compliment. That it looks like you're beat, like, for the role. Is that how you're supposed to be presented?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, because that was what I was directed to do. He said, you got to look like you've suffered, and the only way to do that is to suffer. So it was a lot of work to kind of get that. Look, there's no way to kind of fake it. But we wanted to start the movie with a character who looks like he's been on the run for a decade, and he's running out of places to run, and he's running out of road to run on. And so that was really what we were going for.
Before I let you go, I'd like to see how good of an actor you are. Can you convince Big Papi to not retire?
Boy, if anybody could do that, I mean, I that would make all of us so happy. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's playing so well right now, and I said the other day to someone, I think he's the greatest Red Sox ever. I mean, he really is incredible in what he's done for the city and with those championships. And I mean, it's just, and how big he played in every big situation. I mean, it's just remarkable what he's done. And I hope he doesn't retire. He certainly could play. He certainly could play another year, if not 2 more. And at this level, like, who's to say how long he could go? But it's got to be a grind to stay in shape for him, and to, I mean, it's an up at dawn siege to try to maintain that level of athleticism at that age. So I get it, but boy, he'd make a lot of people happy if he signed up for one more year.
Well, thank God Bourne is back. Don't do that to us again, Matt.
All right, well, if I won't. If people go see this one, then we'll talk about making another one in a few years. But it's a weird summer at the box office. Not a lot of people are going to the movies, it seems. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I'm sure it doesn't matter. Bourne is great. And I'd like to see Bourne against Jeremy Renner. I'd like to see, would you guys pair up, or would you have to use him as a villain maybe somewhere down the road?
I mean, if we could figure out some way that it made sense kind of organically for them to cross paths. But, I mean, in the meantime, I do like that they're two different things on parallel tracks. And I hope, if this one does well enough, I would hope that they'd make another one of those with Jeremy. And then who's to say down the line if the characters would cross paths? I mean, I think it'd be cool.
Well, good luck with it, and always great to talk to you, Matt. Thank you for joining us.
All right, Dan. Thanks. Appreciate it.
That's Matt Damon. Jason Bourne hits theaters on Friday.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.